she decided that she wanted to feed the kids their own father. Hello guys, namaste, welcome back to my channel. This is Amisha Singh Chauhan, and if you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're at the right place. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. So before I begin with today's video, I would like to give out a small reminder that this video is only for educational and entertainment purposes. Now, today I am going to talk about Katherine Knight. A lot of you might have heard about her, a lot of you might have not. I got to know about her much later actually. So this woman, oh my god, where should I start? Let's start with the fact that she is the first Australian woman to get life imprisonment without parole. So it's like once she entered the prison, she would never come back, and that's exactly what's happening. So let's talk about Katherine Knight over here. Katherine Knight was born on 24th of October 1955. Her life, her childhood to be specific, was very dysfunctional. It was very unconventional. The family environment was not healthy at all. Katherine's mother, Barbara, she was living in Aberdeen, New South Wales, Australia with her husband and 4 sons. But at the same time, she was having an affair with another man. This man was not only her husband's co-worker, but a very good friend as well. And the town was very small. So obviously there was a lot of gossips and there was scandals as soon as the news broke out that Barbara was having an affair, like she was having an adulterous affair with Ken Knight, who later would be the father of Katherine Knight. Now, what happened is, to escape all this scandalous nature and the environment of the small town, they escaped, like they ran away from, not ran away in fact, but they left Aberdeen to Moray, which was quite few hours away from Aberdeen. So now what happened over here is that Barbara has this relationship with Ken, and he is not at all a good husband. He is very abusive, he is drunk all the time. There were times where he would rape his wife, as in Barbara, 10 times a day. And in 1955, Barbara gave birth to a pair of twins, and Katherine was the younger twin. Now what happened over here is, with all that violence that she was suffering, as in Barbara was suffering and inflicted to, she started talking about it in pure details to her daughters. Now there is one incident that pops out, is that once Katherine went to her mother and she opened about a partner that she was having who was forcing her to do some acts, some sexual acts, which she was not comfortable with. And the mother, in reply, she said that, you know what, stop complaining, Katherine, just put up with it. You should not complain, just go ahead with it. And I don't know, this is like, I don't expect this from a mother. I get it that you are a victim of domestic violence and sexual abuse, but when your daughter comes for something like this, I don't think so that this should be suggested. Anyways, later on, Katherine even confessed that till the age of 11, she was sexually abused by multiple male figures from her family. She never took any names, and she also specified that even if her father was abusive, but he was never sexually abusive to her or her sister. Now let's talk about Katherine in school. She was said to be a model student. A lot of times she was awarded for her good behavior. And there is also a contradicting statement which says that she was a bully, and there was this one incident where she injured a boy with a weapon. Now I don't know what to believe or what not to believe. How can you be a model rewarded student at the same time being a bully? But whatever. At the age of 15, she dropped out of high school and she could not even read or write. I know it's quite unsettling to digest, but anyways, let's just move ahead. So when she drops out of school, she gets this job in a clothing factory where she was a cutter. Eventually, she ended up getting her dream job. Her dream job was cutting offals at an abattoir, like a meat slaughterhouse. So anyways, she was really good in her job. She got eventually promoted. She was even given her own set of butcher's knife. Now these knives were the same knives that she, from that very day, she used to hang these knives over her bed every time, every day, until the point that she got incarcerated in the prison. And when she was asked about it, she was like, you never know when they can come handy. Now sooner in life, she meets David Kellett, who becomes her first husband and also her first serious relationship. David Kellett was a drunkard. He was actually a very hardcore alcoholic. Not only that, he was actually suspended from his work as a railway worker because of his drinking issues. He was also Katherine's brother's friend, and that's how they met. They were kind of drinking buddies. During courting time, like dating time. He was actually said to be sleeping and partnering with Catherine's other twin. I know it's very gross, but yes. Anyways, they decide to get married, and on their wedding day, they come on a motorcycle. Now, what happened over here is obviously David is really drunk and he remembers one thing, like actually two things from his wedding. The first one being that his mother-in-law, she warned him, like she literally warned him. And this is something that you not expect from your in-laws on your wedding day. She said, you better watch out this one or she'll effing kill you. Stir her up the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you are effed. Don't ever think of playing up on her, she'll effing kill you. End quote. I mean, really, I think this is everything anyone should be warned of. And immediately if someone tells you this, especially your bride's mother, you should just take a U-turn and run away. That did not happen. Also, the second memorable thing of their wedding night was the fact that on their wedding night, she tried to strangle him to death. Now, the reason here was that she was not happy that they had their intimate session only thrice. She had heard from her relatives and from her girlfriends that they did it 4 or 5 times, and she was really upset that her drunk husband just dozed off. So she instead strangled him. Now, that was just the beginning of a very violent, abusive 10 long years of marriage. So when Katherine got pregnant for the first time, she literally chopped off, like she used a pair of scissors and cut off all of his clothing and burned all of his shoes because he was late home from a dart competition where he got into the finals. And not only that, she also used a frying pan to literally smash him on the head, and he was so injured that he ran away. He escaped from the scene, dropped off in front of the neighbor's door. He was then eventually taken to the hospital where he was treated for a severe skull fracture. Now, what happened was that when she delivered her first baby, she had a daughter. Eventually, very soon, David decides to leave her and he shifts to Queensland with another woman, like a girlfriend over there. And obviously, Katherine could not digest it. The very same day, she was found on the streets with her newborn daughter in the pram, and she was literally moving the pram violently from side to the sides. So when people complained it to the authorities, she was eventually arrested and she was put in a medical center where she was diagnosed with postnatal depression. She was in the medical center for a couple of weeks and then she signed herself out. After that, she took her daughter Melissa, 2-month-old daughter, to the railway tracks. She put the baby, the 2-month-old girl, on the railway tracks and left and stole an axe and went on the streets threatening people that she would kill them. Now, fortunately for Melissa, an old man on his way home saw her on the tracks and picked her up just a couple of minutes before the train arrived. Yeah. Now, what happened over here is that again, she gets arrested and she is put in a hospital. But for some reason, the very next day she gets released. She signs herself out. I mean, I really have a lot of questions over here. How do you let a woman who is obviously, in not a healthy state of mind, who tried to kill her own daughter, threatened so many people on the streets, and you just let her leave? But they did that. So yeah, she gets out. After that, she goes to a woman, she slices her face and threatens her to take her to Queensland so that she can find her husband and kill him. Now, this woman, she is very smart. So she stops at a station, like a service station. Over there, she escapes, calls for the police. And when the police arrive at the scenario, they find Katherine threatening another boy, and the police attacked her with brooms. I know I could not get the part about the brooms. Like, I literally googled if what I was reading was right, but yeah, I found it in a lot of articles. Eventually, she was arrested and put in a psychiatric ward. Over there, to a nurse, she confessed that she actually had planned to not only kill this worker who was in the service station because he dealt with David's car, and since his car got better, that way he went to Queensland, leaving her behind. Not only that, but she was also planning on killing David and her mother-in-law. Now, here comes the weird part. It's weird for me. I don't know about you. So, when the police officials, they informed David Kellett about this, about, the entire scenario about the Queensland thing, he, instead of running away and changing his identity, he came back to Katherine because he wanted to take care of her. Not only he came back, but his mother came back as well. The very same mother-in-law she had threatened to kill. Eventually, sometime later, she gets pregnant again and she gives birth to another daughter. But after some time, she leaves him. Yes, this time she is the one who leaves David Kellett. She moves back with her parents, and eventually a year later, she has a back injury for which she gets commission from the government. She also gets housing commission, so she starts living by herself. This is when she meets another David. I know, another second David, but he was David Saunders. Now, David Saunders and Katherine Knight, they were going on really well. But there was one issue that was the problem, that David, even though he had moved in with Katherine and his two daughters, he still was keeping his apartment in Scone. And obviously, Katherine was really jealous. She was like, what is happening? What are you doing when I'm not around? And things like that, pity stuffs. And they would end up fighting a lot, and she would kick him out. He would go back to his apartment in Scone, and then she would go to his apartment, convince him to come back. And it was kind of a karma cycle that would happen all day around. Now, things go really worse when in the May of 1987, so as to threaten him and teach him a lesson, she literally cuts the throat of their 2-month-old dingo pup, so as to teach him a lesson that if he ever tries to cheat on her, this exact thing would happen with him. Not only that, she again used a frying pan and smashed him on the head. I don't know, she has something with frying pans and smashing people on their head. Now, eventually, she gets pregnant again. She gives birth to their daughter, Sarah. Now, this is when he buys a house and puts a deposit. Later on, he pays that deposit. Now, sometime later, they have an argument about something, and she gets very abusive about it. So she takes a flat iron, smashes it on his face, and stabs him on the stomach. After which he moves back to Scone, leaving his daughter Sarah with Katherine and her half-sisters. Eventually, he comes back again to Katherine's house to get his stuffs back, but then he realizes that she has actually torn all of his clothes and it was nothing but trash. That is when he gets the point that this was not going healthy and it was very violent and abusive and something he should not tolerate anymore. So he takes a long leave and then he goes into hiding again, leaving his daughter behind. Now, sometime later, he decides to see his daughter who was with Katherine, and he comes back to her. That is when he gets to know that actually Katherine had gone to the police complaining about him. She also got an AVO, that is apprehended violence order. Now, the ironical part is that she had gotten the AVO against him, but we all know that she was the one who was the abuser over here. So he was really shocked about it, and that's all where David Saunders' chapter ends in Katherine Knight's story. Later on, she ends up dating and being in a relationship with a man. His name is John Chillingworth. Their relationship lasts for 3 years. They also have a son together. His name is Eric. And might I say that this was an abnormal relationship. Abnormal because there was not really anything violent episode that took place in their relationship. I know, I never thought really that I would use abnormal and non-violent relationship in one sentence, but we are talking about Katherine Knight. So the reason could be that she was actually having an affair with another John. I know, she was dating David, then John. So anyways, this John was John Price. So she was having an affair with another man who was John Price. So, John Price was born on 4th of April 1955. He was already married and divorced. His marriage ended in 1988. He had 3 kids with his first wife, and the younger kid was living with the mother, but the first 2 kids were living with him. Now, he was a very successful man in the town and everybody loved him. Like, he was a very nice guy. And John had every idea about Katherine's past. So anyways, moving ahead, their relationship is going pretty well until in 1998 when they have an argument because John Price refuses to marry Katherine Knight, and she was very much standing on the fact that she wanted to get married to this man. She had already moved in with him and the relationship with the kids were going amazing. They were liking Katherine, so she was like, why can't you marry me? Why won't you marry me? And in retaliation of this refusal, what she does is she videotapes him stealing this medical kit from his work. Now she sends this videotape to the boss, and eventually boss had to suspend John Price from his job, the very same job that he was working in for 17 years. And the medical kit was expired, so it was like it was useless, it was of no use for the company, but still they had to. Theft is theft. And obviously John Price did not like it, so he kicked her out the very same day. Now somehow in Katherine's life, all these men, they would come back to her. And that exact thing happened. John Price, couple of months later, he rekindles his relationship with Katherine Knight. But this time, he does not allow her to move in with him. So like they were living separately over here. Over here, after the rekindling of their relationship, when the friends and family got to know about it, they were not happy because everybody knew about Katherine, and they were not happy that such a good man as John Price was in a relationship with an abusive woman like Katherine Knight. Anyways, in February of 2000, they have an argument. An argument leads to obviously Katherine stabbing him in chest. So he kicks her out. Like I said, they were not really living together, but somehow she was living, like it was an unofficial thing. So on 29th of February 2000, John Price decides to get a restraining order. So he takes this restraining order, he goes to his job. Over there, he tells his friends and his colleagues that if the coming day he does not come to the job, he does not arrive at the job, or they do not see him anywhere in the town, then immediately contact the police because his girlfriend or his partner, Katherine Knight, might have hurt him fatally. And that's exactly what happened. His friends also suggested him to not go back home, but he was worried that if he would not go back to his home, then she would hurt his kids. So obviously he was a good father, he got back home, but he found out that neither Katherine Knight nor his kids were home. So Katherine Knight was obviously not at his home, but the kids she had sent off to a friend's place for sleepover. So later on, the very next day, the friends and the neighbors and the colleagues, everyone notices that he hasn't turned up for his job, and they get really worried. That's when his employer decides to send one of his friends to go check on him. And the neighbors and the friends, when they start going looking around the house, they start knocking on the door, banging on the door. They go around looking through the windows. They cannot find any sign of John Price in the house. But eventually they notice blood spots near the main door. And that is when they called the police. So when the police came and they arrived at the scene, they knocked the door, they banged it, but obviously nobody was opening the door. And eventually they could see blood stains and blood splashed all across the house, like literally everywhere. They could also find his torso in the middle of the house. Now from the entire crime scene, they could make out a lot of things. Like you could not imagine how much blood stains and blood splashes could tell, there's a lot of story behind it. So what exactly has happened, we do not know, because eventually Katherine Price cannot remember anything from that evening. But whatever the police officers could make out from the crime scene and the way it was, that is what we are going to talk about right now. So the previous evening, Katherine had actually bought a new black lingerie, and she even videotaped herself among the kids while making some comments which was later interpreted as a crude will. Now later on, when John Price arrived home, now around 11 p.m. he goes to his bed and he's sleeping over there. That's when she arrives, she watches TV for some time, and then she goes and takes a shower. Eventually, they have their intimate session. Now, it is said that when Katherine Knight attacked John Price, he was in his sleep. But then he eventually woke up because you could see that he had actually got up from the bed. He went near the switches. He switched on lights because there were blood over the switchboards. Not only that, he also went through the hallway to the main door. I mean, he would have been so hopeful that he is going to survive out of it, but it did not happen that way. Now, over here, there could be two possibilities: that he passed out because of loss of blood, or Katherine Knight took over him, dragged him from the main door inside the house, because they could make out from the way the blood had marked on the floor. Now, after that, she skinned him. Not only she skinned him, but she also decapitated him. And she had stabbed him 37 times. Actually, 37 stabs is just a rough count because they could not make out because the body was in such a worse condition. Also, while stabbing, she had done it so brutally that a lot of his vital organs like lungs, livers and kidneys, they were injured. After that, she chopped him with nice, precise hands. Like I said, she was a butcher and she was doing an amazing job, and she knew how to use those butcher knives that she had gotten at her job, right? So she skinned him, she decapitated him. And here comes the crazy part. After that, she cooked him. She literally cooked him, and on the dining table there were 2 plate sets with the kid's name, with his kid's name over it, and it literally had his body parts with vegetables like potatoes and onions and zucchini and squash and things like that. Also, his head was in a pot with vegetable. It was like a stew that she was making, and when the police arrived, it was still warm. It was like 40 degrees or 50 degrees Celsius, so they could make out that she was cooking this stew early in the morning, and she decided that she wanted to feed the kids their own father. Also, they found dishes and waste food outside in the backyard, and they do not know why exactly was the food discarded outside, but it is said that she tried to feed dog, or she was trying to eat it herself, but she couldn't do that, so she just threw it away. Also, they found his rest of his body on the bed, while his left arm was over a 1.5 liter of cold drink. Now, it is said to be an act of defilement to demonstrate Katherine Knight's contempt for him. Now, they could also find a photo of John Price with blood and skin, like flesh on it, and there was a note on it which read that, "Time got you back, Jonathan, for raping my daughter. You too beg for Ross, for little John. Now play with little John's dick, John Price." End quote. Now, eventually, during investigation, they found out that these allegations, they were groundless and they did not really have any meaning or a reason behind it. We don't know why she said that, but whatever. Now, you might say, where was Katherine Knight? So all this time, she was in the house comatose. It is said that she was in coma for 3 to 4 days because she had taken some pills. Another thing that has to be mentioned over here is that for some reason, after skinning and decapitating him, she took his ATM card, she went to Aberdeen and took out 1,000 Australian dollars, and where that money is, we don't know. What she was trying to do with it, we have no idea about it. Maybe she's stored it somewhere, but whatever. And after that, she came back, she had those pills, and she got herself overdosed and slipped into a comatose, and that is the reason why she cannot remember anything. At least that's what she said. No puns. Now let's talk about the trial. So initially she was pleading guilty for manslaughter of John Price, but it was rejected. Instead, she was accused of murdering John Price, which she was pleading not guilty. Now over here, what happened is that there were 60 jurors and her legal team was working up the case on the basis of amnesia and dissociation disorder, which she had. She was also diagnosed by psychiatrists of borderline personality disorder, but she was found sane enough to stand trial. Yes, even with all of these things, she was sane to stand a trial and to be prosecuted for the crime she had committed. Now, after this, for some reason, she pleads guilty of her crime. I know, it was very shocking for everyone. We were not really expecting that she would do that because she was all this time pleading not guilty for the charges of murdering John Price, but then she ends up doing the opposite of it. Now, also it is said that during the prosecution, during the trial periods, the jurors were offered to excuse themselves when they were talking about the evidence and how she skinned or decapitated him. Also, they were offered to excuse themselves because of the nature of the pictures that were found from the crime scene. It was so horrendous that 5 of the jurors excused themselves, they took the offer, and later on some other followed the suit. Another thing was that the legal team over here during the trial, they appealed that when they were talking about the facts, like all about the skinning and the decapitating and how she cooked him and stuffs like that, that she should be excused because it would not be healthy for her to hear all of that. But then obviously the judges, they declined this appeal and she gets to stand there the entire time when they were talking about these things. But she slipped into hysteria. She got really hysterical and it was so intense that they had to sedate her. Now, like I said, that she was convicted of the crime, she had pled guilty of it, the jurors were dismissed, and in return, the judges, they decided that she had to be punished severely for the crime she had done. So they punished her for life imprisonment with no parole, and yes, she became the first Australian woman to get that punishment. Eventually, in June 2006, she went to the court again to get it decreased. Now, over here, I find this really unsettling, and obviously, the judges were not taking up on this appeal. Currently, she is in Silverwater Women's Correctional Centre in New South Wales of Australia, and she is said to be the one who takes the call in the prison. Everybody calls her Nana. She has turned herself into a very religious woman. Again, no remorse we're talking about. Also, she has joined a choir and she takes care of everyone over there, and like I said, everyone calls her Nana, so obviously she is the caretaker and a guardian over there. So here we come to the end of Katherine Knight's case, and I don't really know how to sum it all up. Like, I do have certain questions, especially regarding the officials and the authorities over here, like the time when she was released from the hospital after she tried to kill her daughter and threaten people. Like, again and again, she was showing these signs of being a very threatening person who had homicidal tendencies, and yet she was let out to have a normal life among people. And yeah, I mean, these are the questions that really goes inside her head when we talk about Katherine Knight. I mean, I think if the authorities would have taken their steps and tried to take take care about her and analyze her case, then John Price's life could have been saved. I mean, that's my opinion again. I would like to know yours. Also, if you want, you can suggest me some cases to cover in my future videos. Drop your suggestions in the comment section, or you could directly message me on my Instagram. Also, you guys take care of yourself. Have a happy life. Be comfortable. Take care of people around you. Be happy. Bye-bye.